Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're making one of my all-time favorite soups. We're making groundnut soup, and we're going to be using some chicken as protein, and of course, we're going to be using some groundnut paste. And so we're just going to go right ahead and get started. Now, the first thing we want to do when we're making groundnut soup is to mix our groundnut paste with some water, and then we're going to cook that until the oil settles on top. And to this mixture, we're also going to be adding some chopped onions, some hot peppers, as well as some tomato paste. So once we've got that all mixed up, we're just going to go ahead and let that simmer over low heat. Now, the best way to mix this is to use your fingers, honestly, because using a wooden spoon is going to take forever. So usually what I do is just use my fingers to mash that through. And don't worry if it's not totally smooth. You're going to strain this anyway. So just make sure it's sort of a homogeneous texture or mixture, and then you're good to go, basically. And you can see that the oil has come to the top, and that's how we know that it's ready. Now we're also going to be adding some chicken to the soup. We're not going to be putting the chicken directly into the soup. No, we're going to be steaming our chicken very well with some ginger, some onions, some salt, and some hot peppers. Now, the chicken that I used for this particular recipe is a broiler. And if you know the difference between broilers and layers, you know that broiler, the flesh is not as tough as the layer. First of all, you don't want to over steam it. And secondly, you don't want to put it right in the beginning when you're making the soup. Otherwise, by the time you're done with the soup, your meat is all going to fall apart. You're going to make sure that you steam it just enough. It's going to finish cooking in the soup, just enough to get a bit of a broth that you can add to the soup as well, and then just firm enough. So we're going to do that and then steam and then set that to the side. So onto the actual soup, we are going to take our mixture that we have cooked, add some water to that, mix it properly, and then strain it into this beautiful black pot that I'm using. Once that is gone into the pot, you're going to let that simmer for a bit. Now, you need to have an eye on this because if your heat is quite high, it might overflow and you have a lot of cleanup to do. Now, I wasn't careful this time, and all I heard was happening in the kitchen, so I had to run back and then make sure that I lower the fire. This can happen to you, so it's just something you need to be aware of. You're then going to add your blended onions, some whole tomatoes, as well as some hot peppers. You're just going to let that simmer until the volume just reduces by about 3/4. Now, by that time, your tomatoes will be soft and your hot peppers will be soft. And you're simply just going to blend these in a blender and then strain that and then put that back into the soup. Before we actually put that into the soup, we're going to put our chicken, which we have steamed, into the soup and add some of that broth. Right after you put the meat into the pot, you're going to strain the tomatoes and the peppers that you have blended into the soup. So now that you've got that in there, you're going to let your soup cook and simmer. Basically, that's really it for the soup. You want to taste and make sure that your soup is tasting good. You want to taste for salt. If the broth from the chicken doesn't have enough salt, then you're going to add some salt as well. At this point, usually, if I have some shallots, I will peel them and then blend them and then add simmer until it's nice and thickened. Now, another thing is that if you want your soup to be a bit more thick, then obviously before you put it into the soup bowl, you're going to make sure that you're not adding too much water. Now, when I'm personally making groundnut soup, I don't measure the water. I just do it freestyle. That's how I've always done it. However, for the purposes of this video, I took some measurements so that it's just a bit easier to replicate. Once you've got the hang of it, then I guess you can just do it by the eye, so to speak. I find that for groundnut soup, it is for me personally, it is important that it's a bit spicy. Otherwise, it's just really, really rich, and I just feel that the pepper cuts through some of that richness. So our soup is all ready now. And yeah, so there you have it, your groundnut soup with some steamed delicious chicken. This is absolutely my favorite. Like I said, I like to eat it with either kokonte or fufu or with ripe boiled plantains also. I don't like groundnut soup with rice. I don't like it with yam, but it's also something that's eaten with. You can also eat it with kenke actually. And yeah, so there you have it, groundnut soup, my favorite, favorite, favorite. Once I was done with this, I portioned it into two bowls and then let that cool down and then put it in the freezer. And that's what I usually do. I hope that you loved this video. If you're looking for other soups, please check out my goat's meat okra soup. Check out my udon noodle soup. And I've got another okra soup recipe with palm oil. You go check that out. Full recipe, as usual, is up on gingerandseasalt.com. So do check that out. And I will see you on the next one. Happy eating!